Hey, HR Tech Groovers. I'm really excited to get into our topic today. But before we jump in, I thought it'd be great if we could just maybe share a highlight of our week. Sambit, what was your highlight?
Oh, look, it's great to be back. The last few weeks, Jane, has been pretty stressful from a works perspective. We just went live last week. And it's been really full on after that. But yeah, I'm very excited to be back again with both of you.
Definitely.
Congratulations on your go live.
Thanks.
My highlight, getting a haircut's fun. That was good. What's another highlight? Yeah, look, just being able to get a little bit out and about with some of the recent lockdown changes, which is good.
It's been really nice, hasn't it? My highlight was actually I went and had a float for the first time after lockdown, and I have been so zen this week, so it's been amazing.
Nice.
So Groovers, there's a topic that's I guess has been on my mind recently, and that's around, how prepared are businesses for go live, and I thought it'd be great just to get your thoughts on it. So I think there can be a lot of excitement around go live and go, yeah, we made it, but how prepared are you for what actually happens next? An incredibly wise person once said to me, you have a window of time between your go live and when your employees start to forget how bad your old systems were. And so how do you actually capitalize on that period of time? You might have had the most amazing go live, but if you aren't prepared to hit the ground running after go live, you could really risk your employee engagement and find that your key users start to lose faith in the system. Once that happens, it's really uphill battle to get that engagement back and the faith in the system as well. So I thought it'd be great if we could just maybe, share our top 3 tips on it. So I guess, Sambit, having experienced go lives from both an implementer's point of view and a client's point of view, what's your 3 top tips?
Thanks, Jane. Fascinating topic, and you know what? It's perfect timing. We just went live last week with Salvos, and we rolled out Workday for 15,000 volunteers across the nation. So I was just actually going through that process and also thinking about the things that we have improved from our phase 1 go live last year. And because I'm more close to data integrations and testing, I thought I'll just give some call outs, my key takeaways, and our lessons learned from that project, and also from several others that I've done. I actually have 4, so I'll just put in one more in that. Sorry, Jane, on that. The first thing from my side is, when we are rolling out a system, I've seen that if it has self-service features for employees and managers, and it is new to them and they have not used the employee self-service in the past or the manager self-service in the past for managers, it's a brand new system for them. It can be tricky and risky to pitch the system as the source of truth from day one, in terms of data, in terms of reporting structures, in terms of the contact information, address information, because some of those information, when we are bringing the data from the source system, generally the data that is payroll relevant is always audited and it is absolutely accurate. But sometimes the address information or reporting structures, some of these data like cost centers, maybe that could be not absolutely accurate on day one. Even the leave balances, for example, they are at a pay cycle, not on the on the first day of the month. They're accurate at every pay cycle. So messaging that is very important, so that Workday is not considered like it's just everything is perfect on day one. And we have had some issues in the past where we had in a company, we had cost centers being restructured while we are rolling out Workday, and on day one there was an expectation that the cost center managers would be all absolutely okay, but there were some missing cost center managers, and the system started escalating the approval chain to the higher senior management, and they started complaining why this is happening. It is just the inheritance, and the system was not finding the center managers, so it was escalating the approval process. So we got it fixed, but it was just, I thought I'll call out that. And in Australia, we see a lot of that rollouts where it is being, rolled out newly to the employees and managers in terms of self-service. Data privacy, again, on the data side, I would say we did some work in Salvos also. We worked with legal team to make sure and understand which fields can be displayed which employee fields can be displayed across the organization. Can the organization see my year of birth, for example, or they should just see my day and month of my birthday, because there is a country level data privacy regulation, but there's also a legal team inside our company with whom we work very closely. And in Europe, as you both know, it's big thing. You can't just show all the information which is personally sensitive information in the system. So my call out would be for customers to ask that question to the vendor, because I've seen vendors also help explain and guide how their system is compliant and meeting the country's privacy regulations. So that will also kind of help the customer to understand, right, on the day one, we should not be opening up these fields, for example, for visibility. Integrations, man, that can really cause pains, and both of you are smiling, and we have all gone through that process. Payroll integration, Active Directory integration, these two are the top in my head, and there's so much that goes on in that system and in the integrations. Payroll systems are different. The some integrations are completely maybe more automated than the others, but there is nothing called 100% automation of payroll integration, at least what I have seen. And just to thoroughly test that, reconcile the data before we go live, and make sure it is signed off. That's really those two integrations can give nightmares otherwise in the first 2 months. And my last one was to just on that piece, just to call out that data and testing sign-offs, gathering the sign-offs could be considered like a nice to have, because you're actually pushing yourself to go live. There's so many activities, training, change. So, so many things you're doing. It could just take a back seat and you don't do that, but you come back a little later. But for me, that is a very governance and a quality check measure in the cutover plan. Before you go live, you need to make sure that those testing and data has been, reconciled and signed off before we go live. That's it from my side, Jade.
That's great, Samba. And really to your point around integrations, I know that's something that's close to my heart as well. And I know that the implementations I've been through, like I really handhold my integrations at least for 3 months after go live, just so I've got a level of comfort. Until I know, and I'm sure that they're working the way I want them to, I'll just be really hands-on with them. So Josh, I guess your deep knowledge of change management and project sponsor, you've got a really different view on this. So it'd be great to hear your 3 top tips.
Yeah, sure. And it's funny, just listening to what you were saying, Sambit, and even Jane, your comment around post 3 months, I think reminded me that my first one is actually remembering that it doesn't all finish when you go live. I think the post go live bit is make sure from a change perspective, your plan considers not just the go live. What do those first 3 months look like? What stakeholder follow-up is happening in that bit to ensure, what are some of the activities that you can do to really generate excitement and action post those things. I think that's not only important from an engagement perspective, but you should, any change plan worth its salt should have some both lead and lag indicators of success. And so you'd really wanting to start to see that in those first 30, 60, 90 days that you're getting that uptick of adoption, that people are logging in, that, as you said, with integrations, people are knowing what to do if things do fail, or, Sambit, as you said, a cost center wasn't set up, how quickly can we respond, and, things are getting resolved. My second bit from a sponsorship perspective is remember that at the end of the day, like any technology deployment, despite the best efforts, there will absolutely be something that doesn't go right, and how sponsors behave is really critical in that period. Don't jump at shadows. Don't be constantly presenting nervous energy that gets the rest of the team on edge. Be really mindful around the fact that it can be a really challenging and slightly stressful time for those involved and the organization, because it's so embryonic and new. So I'd encourage, from the sponsorship perspective, to really just make sure you're, keeping your game face on and really being encouraging and supporting of the team. The third bit as well, and it probably relates a little bit to my first point, but I think from a comms perspective, communicate. See it as an opportunity to check in with the different groups that, if you've done some work in terms of personas or segments of your organization, use this as an opportunity to check in. How's it going? How's the actual support? How's the system? What are the additional things that you need? Because some of those inputs become great feeds into refinement activity that should really be taking place in some of those first 3 months. And, you can't just assume no news is good news. I think you actually need to have to go out there and really look for it. And, and I know, Jane, thinking about when, we've worked together previously, we did a lot of that where we started to talk to people and get that intel, bring it back into the project, bring it back into the team so that we can refine and, continually improve, which I think is really important, and users appreciate that sort of stuff as well, which I think is really important. How about you, Jane? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so to your point, Josh, around, it doesn't stop when you go live. I think that's really important, because I think there's all this hype around go live, but I think some people forget that, there's a next step after that, right? And you just don't want to get caught up in like, I'm done now. Like, you really need to be prepared for that next step. So I guess my top 3 is, first one, hypercare. Like, hypercare is there for a reason. Make the most of it. It's really good to get some of those quick fixes done in that period of time. And I would really recommend that the person or persons responsible for the system post go live are really not only heavily involved in the implementation, but also in the hypercare, just so you get like a bit of an idea of, that the issues and that are coming through as well. My second one is more around, be really clear on your operating model. How are issues actually going to get to you, and how are you going to resolve them? How are they going to be prioritized? And how can you get some of those quick wins? Also get close to what's happening. So to your point, Josh, actually go back out to the business and look at those personas again. So whether it may be a cost center manager or, your recruitment team or whoever it may be, is it actually working the way you expected it to? Like, get that feedback. And whether it is just a matter of setting up regular meetings and inviting different stakeholders into those meetings, just so you can kind of get close to, what's actually happening versus what you think is happening. And just lastly, just some hygiene around the system. So, make sure you know what needs to be done on a regular basis. So whether it might be, adding new public holidays, creating new pay periods, and back to our thing around integrations and making sure they're being monitored on an ongoing basis as well. And also make sure what the product release cycles are, and, make sure you work back from those dates and give you enough time for regression testing and understand some enhancements that are coming out and how that kind of fits into your overall roadmap as well. And I think a key point to that is too, who actually decides what goes on to your roadmap. I think that's a really key thing, and making sure that everyone understands what that, approval process is. So I guess those are probably my top tips. I think it's important to note as well with the 3 of us is that the reason we're doing this is that we've been through this and, we've learned from these processes, and this is a reflection that we're actually imparting on to other people that may not have actually gone through this process. So it's not to say that we've mastered this, but these are our thoughts on what we could potentially do better next time, or what we've seen actually happen and, what's actually worked well. So I guess that's a wrap up for us today. And I really hope that experience that we've shared can really help anyone that may be going through a go live. So thanks for the chat, Grievous.
Thanks, Jane. It was fun. Thanks to you too, Sambert.
Thanks.
Catch you next time.
See ya.
Yeah.